Welcome to QuickSpeak, the English podcast for learners.
Oh, yeah.
Today we're going to be talking about something that's so important for all relationships. That's communication.
Right.
It's how we connect with each other, share our thoughts and feelings, and build strong bonds.
You know, it's interesting because we often take communication for granted. We assume it's just something we do naturally.
Yeah,
But the truth is, it's a skill that we can all learn and improve upon.
absolutely. And just like any skill, the more we practice, the better we become at it.
Exactly.
I'm really excited to kind of dig into this topic today and explore some practical tips and strategies
Okay.
that our listeners can use to enhance their communication
Yeah.
skills in all kinds of relationships.
Well, let's start by thinking about why communication is so crucial in the first place. What makes it the foundation of any successful relationship?
I think it boils down to building trust, intimacy, and understanding.
Right.
When we communicate effectively, we create a safe space for open and honest dialogue.
Yeah.
This allows us to truly get to know each other on a deeper level.
That's a great point. Without the open communication, misunderstandings can fester, resentments can build.
Yeah,
Eventually, the relationship can start to crumble.
exactly. It's like a house built on a shaky foundation.
Yeah.
So how do we build that strong foundation of communication?
Yeah.
What are some of the key ingredients?
Well, one of the most powerful tools we have at our disposal is active listening.
Okay.
It's more than just hearing the words someone is saying. It's about truly engaging with them, paying attention to their nonverbal cues, and making sure you understand their perspective.
I've heard of active listening, but to be honest, I'm not always sure I'm doing it right.
Yeah,
It sounds simple in theory,
sure.
but putting it into practice can be tricky.
I understand. It's definitely a skill that takes practice.
Yeah.
One helpful technique is to focus on reflecting back what you're hearing.
Okay.
So instead of just nodding along, try summarizing what your partner is saying to make sure you're both on the same page.
Right.
You can say something like, so what I'm hearing you say is, and then rephrase their point.
That's a really good tip.
Yeah.
It not only shows that you're listening attentively, but also gives them the opportunity to clarify if you've missed anything.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of nonverbal cues, making eye contact, nodding your head, and using open body language.
Right.
Can all signal that you're truly engaged in the conversation.
It's like we're sending messages with our bodies even when we're not saying a word.
Yeah.
So it sounds like active listening is about being present both verbally and non-verbally.
Right.
But what about when things get a little heated?
Uh-huh.
Conflict is inevitable in any relationship, right?
Absolutely. Disagreements are bound to happen.
Sure.
But the key is to approach conflict constructively rather than letting it escalate into a full-blown argument.
I like the sound of that. So what are some strategies for navigating conflict in a healthy way?
Well, one of the most important things is to focus on expressing your own feelings and needs,
Okay.
using I statements rather than blaming or accusing your partner.
Can you give us an example of how that might sound in a real conversation?
Sure. Let's say you're feeling frustrated because your partner forgot to take out the trash again.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, you never listened to me, I asked you to do this hours ago.
Yeah.
You could try saying something like, I feel really frustrated and disrespected when I ask for help with something and it doesn't get done.
Okay.
It makes me feel like my needs aren't important.
Oh, I see the difference. The first statement feels accusatory and likely to put your partner on the defensive,
Right.
while the second statement focuses on your own emotions and needs without attacking them.
Exactly. It's not about suppressing your feelings, but rather expressing them in a way that invites understanding and collaboration.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's
Yeah.
about focusing on I statements and expressing our feelings without blaming what else can we do to fight fair, as you mentioned earlier.
Another crucial aspect is to find a solution that works for both of you.
Right.
Conflict resolution isn't about one person winning and the other losing. It's about working together to find a compromise that meets both of your needs.
That's a really important point. It's about collaboration, not competition. But what if we're really stuck and can't seem to find common ground?
Sometimes taking a break from the conversation can be helpful.
Okay.
If things are getting too heated, agree to take some time to cool down and process your emotions
Right.
before coming back to it later.
That's such a good reminder. Stepping away can prevent things from escalating and allows for a more rational and productive conversation later on.
Exactly. It's also important to remember that seeking professional help is always an option.
Right.
If you're finding it difficult to resolve conflicts on your own, a therapist can provide valuable guidance and support.
That's a great point. There's no shame in asking for help. It's a sign of strength, not weakness.
I agree.
So we've talked about active listening and conflict resolution.
Yeah.
These are really practical tools that can help us communicate more effectively in any relationship.
Absolutely.
But what about those deeper, more emotional conversations? How do we navigate those?
Well, I think the key is vulnerability.
Vulnerability. That sounds a little scary.
I know it can feel intimidating,
Yeah.
but it's absolutely essential for building deep and meaningful connections. Vulnerability means allowing yourself to be seen, flaws and all.
Okay.
It's about sharing your authentic self with your partner,
Right.
even the parts that you might feel insecure about.
So it's about creating a safe space where we can both be ourselves without fear of judgment.
Exactly. And when you feel safe being vulnerable with each other, it fosters a level of trust and intimacy that's truly special.
I can see how that would strengthen a relationship. But vulnerability requires a lot of courage, doesn't it?
It does. It takes courage to step outside of our comfort zones and share our true selves. But the rewards are immeasurable when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable. We open the door to deeper connection, empathy, and understanding.
That makes sense. So vulnerability is about being open and authentic with our partners, even when it feels scary. But what about honesty? How does that play into effective communication?
Honesty is absolutely crucial. It's the foundation of trust in any relationship. Being honest doesn't mean being brutally blunt or insensitive.
Right.
It means being truthful with kindness and compassion. It means sharing your thoughts and feelings openly and respectfully, even when it's difficult.
I think sometimes we're afraid to be honest because we don't want to hurt our partner's feelings or cause conflict. But ultimately, isn't it more hurtful to hide things or pretend everything is okay when it's not?
You're absolutely right. Sweeping things under the rug might seem easier in the short term, but it can lead to bigger problems down the road.
Right.
Honesty, even when it's uncomfortable, allows you to address issues head on and work through them together.
That makes sense. So it's about finding that balance between honesty and kindness.
Yeah.
It's about being truthful in a way that respects our partner's feelings while also allowing for open and authentic communication. We've covered a lot of ground so far.
Yeah.
Active listening, conflicts lined, resolution, vulnerability, honesty. These are all such valuable insights. But before we move on, I want to take a moment to hear from you, our listeners. What are your thoughts on these topics? Have you experienced any challenges with communication in your own relationships?
Yes, we'd love to hear from you. Share your experiences or any questions you have in the comments below.
And be sure to subscribe to QuickSpeak for more episodes on improving your English and connecting with the world around you.
We'll be back soon with more tips and insights to help you navigate the complexities of communication.
Sound good?
You know, building on the idea of honesty and vulnerability, it's important to remember that communication is a two-way street.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it's not just about expressing yourself clearly. It's also about being receptive to what your partner is saying, both verbally and non-verbally.
So it's about creating a dialogue, a back and forth flow of communication.
Exactly.
Where both partners feel heard and understood.
Precisely. And that dialogue needs to be ongoing. It's not a one-time thing.
You mean it's not enough to have one big heart-to-heart conversation and then assume everything is sorted out?
Absolutely not. Communication is a continuous process that requires effort and attention from both partners.
So it's like a muscle that needs to be exercised regularly. The more we practice good communication, the stronger our relationships become.
That's a great analogy. And, you know, as relationships evolve over time, it's even more important to make a conscious effort to keep those lines of communication open.
That's so true.
Yeah.
What works in the early stages of a relationship might not be as effective 5, 10, or 20 years down the road.
Exactly. Our needs change, our communication styles evolve.
Right.
And it's important to adapt and adjust together.
So how do we make sure our communication stays strong and healthy as our relationship grows and changes?
Well, one key is to keep checking in with each other regularly.
Like a relationship tune-up.
I love that analogy. Just like you take your car in for regular maintenance, it's important to schedule regular check-ins with your partner.
Okay.
To see how things are going, set aside sometime maybe once a week or once a month to talk about how you're both feeling, what's working well in the relationship, and what could be improved.
So it's about being proactive and creating a space for open dialogue before problems start to pile up.
Precisely. And don't wait for a crisis to have these conversations. Make it a regular part of your relationship routine, just like date night or family dinners.
That makes so much sense. It's like preventative care for your relationship.
Exactly. And during these check-ins, Be honest and open with each other. Don't be afraid to bring up any concerns or issues that have been on your mind, even if they seem small. Remember, small issues can often snowball into bigger problems if they're not addressed early on.
So nip those problems in the bud, but how do we make sure these check-ins are productive? I mean, sometimes it's hard to talk about sensitive topics without things getting heated.
You're right. It's not always easy. That's why it's so important to approach these conversations with a spirit of collaboration and understanding.
Yeah.
Remember, you're on the same team. You're both working towards the same goal, a happy and healthy relationship.
I love that. So we've talked about the importance of regular check-ins. What else can we do to keep communication strong as our relationship evolves?
Well, another key is to stay curious about each other.
What do you mean by that?
As relationships mature, it's easy to fall into routines and take each other for granted.
Right.
We assume we know everything there is to know about our partner.
Yeah.
But the truth is, people change and grow over time, and there's always more to learn about each other.
So even after years of being together, we should still make an effort to really listen and learn from our partners.
Exactly. Ask open-ended questions, listen attentively, and be genuinely interested in what they have to say. It's like rediscovering each other all over again. And this ongoing curiosity can help keep the spark alive in your relationship.
I love that regular check-ins, staying curious about each other. Any other tips for keeping communication strong as our relationship evolves?
Well, it's also important to be mindful of how external factors might be affecting your communication.
Okay.
Things like stress work, pressures, family obligations, even major life changes can all take a toll on our ability to communicate effectively.
So if you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed, it's important to communicate that to your partner and let them know how it might be affecting your mood.
Right.
Or your ability to be present in the relationship.
Exactly. And be understanding if your partner is going through a tough time as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes just knowing that your partner understands and supports you can make all the difference.
So it's about being a team, supporting each other through thick and thin, and remembering that communication is the glue that holds that team together.
Precisely. And, we've been talking about communication in the context of romantic relationships.
Yeah.
But these principles apply to all kinds of relationships, right?
That's a great point. Good communication is essential for healthy relationships with family members, friends, colleagues,
Yes.
and even acquaintances, whether you're talking to your spouse, your boss, or your neighbor. These same principles apply active listening, nonverbal awareness,
I agree.
empathy, honesty, vulnerability. These are all essential ingredients for building strong and fulfilling relationships, no matter who you're interacting with.
It's about treating everyone with respect and understanding, remembering that communication is a two-way street. It's about listening as much as you speak, being open to different perspectives and being willing to compromise. And most importantly, it's about making an effort.
Right.
Communication takes effort, but the rewards are well worth it.
Because good communication is the foundation of any strong and healthy relationship. Well said. You're absolutely right. We've talked about so many crucial elements of communication: active listening, conflict resolution, vulnerability, honesty, being receptive to our partner's needs.
Yeah.
But there's one more piece of the puzzle I think we need to address.
I think I know where you're going with this, forgiveness.
Exactly. Because even with the best communication skills, we're all human. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to say things we regret. We might unintentionally hurt our partner's feelings.
It's inevitable. No one is perfect. And relationships aren't about achieving some kind of flawless ideal. It's about how we navigate those imperfect moments together.
That's such an important reminder.
Yeah.
So how does forgiveness fit into this picture of healthy communication?
Well, imagine it this way. Holding on to grudges or resentment is like carrying around a heavy weight. It weighs you down, prevents you from moving forward, and can really poison a relationship.
That's a powerful image.
Yeah.
So how do we practice forgiveness in a way that's healthy and productive?
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes it's easier said than done.
You're right. It's not always easy. It takes a conscious effort first. It's crucial to acknowledge the hurt that was caused. Don't try to sweep it under the rug or pretend it didn't happen.
So it starts with validating our own feelings and acknowledging the impact of our partner's actions, even if they didn't intend to hurt us.
Exactly. And then try to understand why your partner did what they did. It doesn't mean you have to condone their behavior.
Right.
But trying to see things from their perspective can foster empathy and compassion.
So it's about stepping into their shoes, even if we don't agree with their actions.
Precisely, it's about recognizing their humanity. We all make mistakes, and understanding the context can help us move towards forgiveness.
That makes a lot of sense. But what about when the hurt is really deep? Is forgiveness always possible?
That's a complex question, and there's no easy answer. Forgiveness is a process, not a switch we can flip on and off. It takes time, and it's okay to struggle with it. Sometimes seeking professional guidance from a therapist can be helpful in navigating those difficult emotions.
That's reassuring to hear. So it's not about forcing ourselves to forgive immediately. It's about acknowledging the hurt,
Right.
trying to understand, and then making a conscious choice to let go of the anger and resentment when we're ready.
You've got it. And remember, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean condoning the behavior. It simply means releasing yourself from the burden of those negative emotions.
It's about choosing to move forward.
Exactly. It's a gift you give yourself as much as you give it to the other person.
That's such a beautiful way to put it. Forgiveness is an act of self-love and compassion, as well as an act of love for our partner. Well, I feel like we've covered so much ground today. We've explored the foundations of healthy communication, from active listening to conflict resolution, vulnerability, honesty, and the power of forgiveness.
We have.
And I hope our listeners feel equipped with some practical tools and insights they can use to strengthen their own communication skills.
Absolutely. Remember, communication is a skill that we can all continuously learn and improve upon. It's an ongoing journey, not a destination.
So true. As we wrap up today's episode, is there one final thought you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I think the most important takeaway is this: don't be afraid to put in the effort. Communication takes work, but the rewards are immeasurable. Strong communication fosters trust, intimacy, and understanding it allows us to build deeper connections, navigate challenges together, and create more fulfilling relationships.
Beautifully said. And remember, the more we practice, the better we become at it. So keep those conversations flowing.
And don't forget to subscribe to QuickSpeak for more episodes on improving your English and connecting with the world around you.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of communication. Until next time.